Coach was talking a little bit in his press conference about just like the tale of two halves, especially on the defense, how things kind of kicked up a notch in the second half. What do you kind of see from that? What kind of adjustments did you make at halftime to be able to shut them down in the second half?
Yeah, we just had to start playing our brand of ball. The guys, we took 15 days off with the bye week, so, you haven't really gone out there and really, as Hitch would say, bring a grown man down to the ground. So just took a little minute to get the guys warmed up. But, once we got warmed up and going, you seen the effort and you seen the brand start to show up.
What are you seeing from Georgia Southern's offense? Coach was talking a little bit about just how dynamic they are and some of the trickery that they have, things like that. Just how do you kind of go when preparing for an offense that's going to show so many different things like that?
Yeah, they're a good football team. They're talented. They're well coached, and the things that they do well. They have a good run game with good backs. Good offensive line, good scheme as far as running the counters and stuff like that. They show it in different ways with motions and shifts. And then to the quarterback play in the pass game, experienced quarterback. He's a smart kid. He knows how to read defense. He can use his feet when he needs to, avoids getting hit. So we got to go out there and play a good ball game.
Kind of wanted to go back to the bye week, like Preston had asked. A lot of the talk can always be how much does it help you guys and the rest. But what is the difficulty when you do have 15 days away from live game action, and what is it like adjusting back up to the speed of it? Yeah,
you try to keep the practice as intense as possible, but knowing that you don't have a game, it's hard to mimic that. It's hard to mimic the urgency of having to face an opponent that following week. So we took guys a half to really get right, but once we talked about it in the locker room, it was all good.
And then as Coach mentioned, this game last year, Georgia Southern wasn't necessarily the what-if game. It was one where they handled business when you guys went down there.
Yeah.
How much are you guys taking what you learned from them last year and just trying to add it into maybe some chip on the shoulder, added motivation into this week's preparation?
Last year's team was last year's team, and this year's team is new. We feel like we're better this year. Got to go out there and watch the tape from last year to see what you did, self-scout, see what they can pick out from our team last year, and, look at what you did this year as far as what we gave up in our past couple of games, because, it's a copycat game. So the stuff that we gave up, they're probably going to try to hit us on that same type of thing too. So, watching both of those tapes to really put it together and get a good game plan for them.
Just as a leader on this team,
Yeah.
I'm curious if you've talked to any of the newer players, like in the linebacker room or on the front seven, ahead of conference play to say, hey, this is kind of what conference play is all about. These are some of the things you might see in Sun Belt play.
Yeah, we talked about it after practice Sunday, walkthroughs after the game. This is the beginning of conference play. This is really where it all matters now. The first three games were the first three games. Now we got that on tape for both sides. You see what identity the team really has and what they're planning on doing, how they're going to attack us on offense for the defensive perspective. And, so we can study that up and go out there and play as hard as possible. Luckily, we played them at home, so we don't have to worry about their fan base. We have our big fan base that I know is going to show up and show out. But, I told the newer guys who haven't played them before, this is a good Sun Belt team, and they're going to come in here and play us to their best ability.
We've asked you a lot about Coach Hitchler and his scheme, but it seems like he brings a fire and a passion on the sideline when you see. Can you just talk a little bit about that? Because he's not afraid to wear his emotions on his sleeve.
Yeah, Coach Hitch will get after us, and it's not just during the game. It'll be during a practice or even during a walkthrough. I feel like that's when he's at his peak, is during those walkthroughs. You know what I'm saying? So that just goes to show how much he loves the game and how passionate it is. He always harps about the air staying at the top. So little mistakes that other coaches might let go by or let pass, he really harps on those and really wants us to realize it's the details that matter. It's the details that's going to get you those games. Football is a game of inches, so everything counts as far as your first step, your pre-snap reads, your alignment, stuff like that.
Trent, Drew Spinagatti leads you guys with tackles for loss, and I know you guys kind of joked. And Coach even mentioned earlier, if he just slows down a little bit. Dobbs was behind me on the bus the other day talking about how he could lead the country in tackles for loss if he would just kind of figure things out a little bit. Talk about Drew's progression and what he's meaning playing with the three linebackers at times.
Yeah, he's a younger guy, so at the backer position, I always say it comes with reps. As far as seeing the game and slowing the game down. And that goes back to, first steps, your alignments, pre-snap pictures from the offense. But, I mean, that kid is just a natural-born football player. I was talking to Coach DP at practice last week. I said, if you look up just linebacker in the dictionary, a pick of Drew Spinagati was probably going to pop up. So, he loves the game. He loves going out there, and he loves getting his face in there and just bringing ball carriers to the ground. And you can see on tape by the way he plays, the passion he has. If you look at kickoff, he's always the first one down there running down the field. And, I'm great to see how he's growing this year, game by game, practice by practice, day by day. He's just, taking it all in and trying to be the best backer he can be.
We talked a lot about communication with you guys.
Yeah.
But how about the in-game adjustments that have had to be made throughout the first 3 weeks? And again, you had to make some certainly on Saturday against Liberty. Do you like how you guys been able to do that on the sideline?
Yeah, and I think that goes for just the communication as far as like the green dot with the helmets and the iPads on the sideline. You instantly get to be able to watch the film and watch the mistakes that you made on the field. So by the time you go back out there, you know how to correct what you just did. So, we break up and meet together as a defense every time after a drive. No matter what the result is, we're going to meet as a defense, talk to Coach Hitch, talk to the guys, leaders of the defense will speak, and then you break off into your position group, watch the tape. My coach, DP, is in the press box, but Dobbs is on the field, and that's who we watch the tape with as the backers. Dobbs, and maybe Hitch might come through and have his 1-2 about what he had to say about it. But we get it done quick, and then we're out there ready to roll.
How has it been with Coach Plungus this year?
Really good, man. It's different, having him on in the booth and having Dobbs, really on the field while it's game time. But they do a good job talking to each other through the headsets and communicating and getting the message together, getting the backers on one page during game days.
You mentioned the green dot as well.
Yeah.
We were talking about Coach Hitch and what he is. How is he to listen to in the helmet?
He's cool. I mean, sometimes he'll be in there, sometimes not. And he only, says a few little things. He'll just get the play call in there. That's really why I like it, just to get the play call, so I really don't have to look to the sideline all the time. Nah. That's during practice, he'll leave it on sometimes, and you can hear him arguing or whatever. But, during the game, he's pretty quiet. He's pretty poised, and, he doesn't really talk to me too much. Just talk to me, maybe get the corner a certain call or tell him do something, or maybe a D lineman get them right. But he pretty much lets me run the show.
Kind of going off the coach-to-player communication with you wearing it now, how have you liked kind of that adjustment into your game and having that responsibility?
I like it. It makes it easier for me to get the calls into the guys, and that's a big thing on defense, just getting the guys lined up and getting everybody comfortable so you can start looking at what the offense is going to do. Instead of thinking about what you have to do, you already know your job and your alignment, what guy is going to come attack you, who you have to strike or who you have to defeat to make the play. And so it just those few extra seconds of communication, just being able to like chill and really relax and think about your keys, it just makes you play that much faster.
Was there much of a learning curve in adjusting to it, or was it pretty simple and quick to pick it up?
It was pretty easy. The mic, sometimes the mic might go out or something like that, and you just have to adjust that, just signal on the sideline that, you might not be able to hear the mic. But it was easy, it was pretty easy. It's just, I feel like it definitely benefits us as players.
How has Gannon Weathersby progressed with the past year than up into the season in September?
He's a totally different guy. Watching him come in as a freshman, like I said, the back position is hard to come in and really, know what you're doing exactly. But, the leaps that he's taken into becoming an older guy, not just on the field but off the field, becoming more of a leader, he's been a guy who's been here throughout the years and through some changes, so he knows the culture. He knows how things operate at James Madison. So he's been able to teach the younger guys and transfers things, like the older guys that's been here. So it's blessed to be able to see him become, a great player for this program and a great dude.
Jaylan, I was just curious, as a transfer guy coming in, what are sort of your expectations, and motions at going into your first Sun Belt game here?
There's been a lot of talk about the conference play in the Sun Belt and how, it's always a little more serious. Getting to conference play, these games do matter a whole lot more, especially playing in conference and playing at home, especially. With the result of what last year was, and all the guys have a different chip on their shoulder for this week. So being a transfer, it's kind of like the energy is perfectly distributed throughout all of us. Like we feel the energy that we have to come with this weekend. Like guys like Trent, who played in that game last year, who come off of that feeling that loss, traveling back from Georgia. We're tuned in for this week.
After you got to like sink your teeth into the tape this weekend. How do you feel like the wide receiver room did?
I feel like we moved around pretty well. You know, Coach Harp he was doing a great job keeping us fresh with our rotations, the way we were going in and out, and with the fluidity of the game, you know, and the way Zoe was playing, and with the O-line and how we were all progressing. You know, first half it was kind of a little slow for us to finish drives. First 2 drives we go down there, you know, first one ends in a field goal. We drove down. We just had a lot of minor penalties on offense. And in the receiver room we had one big penalty that hurt us a good amount on offense. So, you know, this week just harping on focusing on not letting those little things happen again so that we can sustain drives and finish those drives is going to be a big part.
For you, it was your best game since coming to JMU over the weekend. What for you personally, what was going well, and what were you seeing in your routes and your connection with Zoe?
You know, we saw all week in practice. We had 15 days kind of to get every look right, to get every look perfect, to see how they would play us in every situation or the different types of ways they could play us. And I think Coach Kennedy did a great job of throughout the week of practice, you know, giving us those different looks. So once we got out there in the game, you know, it was just those guys had blue jerseys on instead of our practice guys who wear the purple jerseys. So it was kind of just like another rep at practice. It made it smooth, made it fluid, and with Zoe, it was just him being able to trust us and get the ball, put the ball in there so we could go make a play.
And you mentioned talking to guys like Trent who were in that game last year. What have you seen and heard from them about kind of that experience of going on the road and playing at Georgia Southern, and what wasn't a what-if game?
I'd say everybody has the same thing. I say even Coach Chesney, he says it. It wasn't one of those games where, you know, you get off the bus and it's like, we could have done this, or if we didn't do this, we would have maybe scored 14 more points and it would have been, you know, a tied game. But it was more so one of those, they got off the bus and they lost that game as a team, you know. And this year, being able to lock in more on it just being another game. Yeah, we're playing a team coming off a loss that we had faced last year. But, you know, it can only matter so much, and you kind of have to take it one step at a time. Every Saturday is a new Saturday. We're 0-0. You know, it's a brand new ball game, and, yeah, it's conference play, and, yeah, it's Georgia Southern. They're a pretty good team. They have a great defense, a great offense, but it's a new week for us. And we just finished going over reviews for this past game, and whatever we need to fix, we're going to fix, and we'll be ready.
To go back to this last Saturday, I know you were just talking a little bit about the slow start in the first half offensively. What was different in the second half? Do you feel like you guys made a lot of adjustments, or did things just kind of click during the second half?
I'd say in the second half it was a good even distribution between our adjustments going into halftime, but also just talking as a team, talking as an offense, and making sure that when we were in that locker room at halftime, we were picking each other up, you know, because it was a slower start to the game, especially in the first half and that first quarter. But getting in that locker room and having those 30 minutes and being able to sit down and talk to the guys and kind of feel the energy and what's going on, how the guys are feeling, the O-line, the QBs, the defense even, because we feed off their energy. So, you know, us being in there and hearing them, listening to them, like, let's go, let's pick it up. It's time to turn it on now. That fuels us too. So that locker room at halftime was I'd say the biggest part of us coming out in that second half to turn things up a notch.
I know when we talked to you in the preseason, the word you used was explosion. You're going to see explosion. When you have 2 running backs that run the ball like they did on Saturday, how much does that open up the passing game to create? Because I feel like we saw a glimpse of that on Saturday. It looked like for maybe really one of the first times this year in terms of the passing game and that explosion.
Yeah, very true. The explosiveness is not only in the pass game. You know, we as receivers can make explosive plays in the run game as well, and we have some of the most explosive backs in the conference, I'd say. You know, Wayne Knight, he's electric. Io, he's a whole different guy, and you know, GP, when GP's good, he's a dog. So we've got a 3-headed monster back there in the backfield. So all the coaches tell us all week, you know, we do our job on the perimeter, we block guys, and we help out on the second level. It's going to be easier to spring plays on the perimeter to get the ball in the air because teams aren't going to have a choice but to stack the box a little bit, and which is going to force them to play some type of man, and they're not going to be able to guard all 3 of us, all 4 of us out there at the same time.
I know we talked about the explosion with the running back room, wide receiver group as well. I know there was a lot of talk going into the season about what you guys can be able to do. A couple games under your belt, what stood out about this unit so far to you?
I say this was our best game offensively, you know, especially with connection between quarterback, receiver, quarterback, tight end even. The way we communicated this game and the way we went about practice for the 15 days we had off, I feel like we made it a big point to harp in on, you know, just being locked in with one another, knowing each other's jobs and what we have to do out there on the field, so we know where we're going to be at, where we're each supposed to be at during the whole game.
You're a veteran guy. Landon's a veteran guy. Deej, those guys. Do you feel like that has helped you guys kind of come together with so many veteran guys on the field? Talking to Coach Harp last week, he says, I got a lot of trust in those guys, and that's why you played so much at Louisville. Has that meant a lot to you, and do you see that show up on the field with all of you guys?
Yeah, and I say that's one of the biggest things we see, especially, you know, throughout the course of the game, throughout the course of practice. Coach Harp is kind of very lenient with how he talks to us and how he lets us lead the group. And even when we talk to the offense, you know, the O-line, the QBs, the running backs, we all kind of come together as a collective. And, you know, me, Nick, and Landon especially, we kind of try to bring the energy and just make it very infectious with the offense, so we all feel the same way.
Obviously, we talked during fall camp, and it's different then. You felt good, you felt comfortable, everything's good throughout spring and summer and fall camp. Now that you're into 3 games, are you starting to feel more comfortable just with the offense and now going against other opponents?
Yeah, for sure. And not just me personally, but I feel like as the offense as a whole, I feel like we're in a good spot right now where, you know, we're moving the ball down the field, we're making big plays, we're making X plays, and we're trusting each other out on the field. We know that any given opportunity, whoever is able to have the ball in their hand, anything can happen and anything can pop. So I think in an offense like that, when you have a whole bunch of guys who believe in not only the plays and the coaches, but in each other, that does big.
Been bouncing around a little bit inside, out. Do you like doing that?
Yeah, I love that. I love moving around. I hate being in one place.
Talk about their defense a bit. What have you seen on film so far here early in the week?
You know, they have a good defense. They have a great offense. They have a good defense. They play complementary football. They have a more experienced defensive backfield, I'd say, than we faced this week. You know, a lot of their guys have some more snaps, are a little older, some more seniors out there who have seen a lot more football, who have seen a lot more games, seen a lot more receivers, a lot more pass concepts. So in a game like this, it's kind of your best against your best. Like you have to prepare and be ready, because those guys aren't young. They're not going to make young dude mistakes. They know where they have to be, but we have to execute better than they do.